So, good morning and welcome back to Real Life with Andrea. It's Wednesday morning, and we are here to continue our conversation about foster parenting teens. And today we're going to talk about how parenting our biological teenagers and parenting our foster teenagers have a lot of similarities, yet we often treat them differently. So, if we have a core set of rules, like we talked about yesterday, then everyone should be expected to follow those rules. We might have a few individual rules for some of our children because maybe some of them aren't doing well in school, and so they have to have other responsibilities or things like that, but that core set should be the same for everybody. And so whether it's our biological children or our foster children, God has built into them the ability to choose. Often our children do not choose the path that we would like them to choose. It might not even be a bad path, just not what we think is the best. So as children in general, teenagers in general, if you have parented biological children, you know that when they get older, they start to become rebellious. They might just be rebellious in attitude, or they might be rebellious in not doing their chores, or they might be rebellious and be drinking and doing drugs. I mean, it can be anything because they are at that stage where they are making their own choice and they're wanting to control their own lives. And as parents who raise our biological children, we should be raising them with that zero tolerance when they're small, and then loosening up a little bit at a time and giving them a little bit more space and a little bit more control over their lives, so that when they come into these stages, they don't feel like they have to be grabbing control from you because you've been giving them control. And that works for some kids, but not for all. So often with both our biological children and our foster children, but our foster children in particular, they've had too much control over their lives until they've come into your home, and now you want to implement rules that they've never had before, and they are going to fight against that. And we have to understand that that is part of the process. It's part of their growing up, it's part of their history. And so as we're walking down this path of our children wanting to have control over their lives, we need to be especially gracious and forgiving when they make mistakes. I mean, we make mistakes every day as parents. They are going to make mistakes as kids. Just because we tell them to do something or we tell them what they should be doing doesn't mean that they're going to do it. The same as God tells us what we should be doing, God gives us a set of rules to follow and a set of expectations, and we don't always follow them, and we suffer the consequences, as do our children. So being able to talk with them, it can be frustrating, and it's not that we can't be upset about it and we can't even express to them that we're upset, but we have to be careful not to lash out in anger or make them feel like they're stupid or they've made the dumbest decision on the planet. We have to talk to them in a way that builds trust between us and says, you can still come to me with all these things. I am going to tell you that I don't think this was the best decision, and here's all the reasons why. Or this was a very harmful decision, and here's all the ways why. But we have to be in control of ourselves, have that self-control, and walk them through things that as biological children they've probably already heard, but as foster children they may never have heard why these decisions are wrong, because they've seen their parents making them, they've seen them be bad decisions for their parents, but they're thinking, but I won't do that, but that won't happen to me, instead of seeing that any person who walks down the path of being alcoholic or being drugs is going to come into these consequences at some time or another, or choosing not to do your schoolwork, or not getting a job and being responsible, or what are the natural consequences for that. And going forward, if you don't do these things, if you don't learn how to do these things, how is that going to impact your life? And that's our job, is to show them and teach them how what the decisions that they're making today are going to impact their future. We can only do that if they trust us. Sometimes there's no way to build trust. Their trust has been so broken in adults that we are setting the foundation. We are just doing the best that we can to set that foundation. But but they aren't going to trust us. And hopefully someday, if they continue to have people that come into their lives that are trying to build that trust, they will eventually trust somebody. But some of these kids are so broken, they aren't going to trust anybody. And the best thing that we have for them is prayer. So, and that really should be the first thing that we do for these children, is pray over them daily, pray that they will be open, pray that they will trust us, pray that they will hear the words that we're saying, even when it doesn't look like they're hearing, they hear what you have to say. And when they can trust that you care about them, even if they never show it, they do feel it at their core. They feel that it's something different. And often we hope for, and we should hope for, a better situation, or to see more movement in their lives, to see them coming around and making more trust. But we just often don't have enough time with them to really see that. But know that God, nothing that we do for these kids is going to be wasted, that God is going to use that in their lives at some point going forward. And just like when you go and you witness to somebody, you may never even see the fruit of the seeds that you're sowing. We are sowing good things into these kids' lives every single day. And that is the thing that we have to remember, is that it's hard. And some kids are pretty easygoing. Like, I have a teenager now, and I've had all easygoing ones. They're more rebellious in their heart than they are on the outside. And so that is where I can't see what's going on. And they don't like my rules, but they follow them, and they fight against them a little bit, but mostly they do what they're told because they're compliant. But some people get kids that are outwardly rebellious, that their choices are rebellious, their actions are rebellious, they're physical, they're violent, all of these things. And the best thing that we can do for these kids is that still love them, still have expectations, still keep your family safe. Sometimes you just can't have kids like that in your home because of the escalated violence or the danger that it presents to yourself and to your family. And you have to understand that that's okay. But still, even in that, when you say, it's time for you to leave because of this and that, know that I love you and that I'm never going to, give up on you. But for whatever reason, be honest that this isn't going to work out. So parenting teens in general can be difficult, and especially in the foster care system. I think with the kids who are outwardly rebellious, you have a better idea about what's going on with them, that they are angry, that they are fighting the system. Sometimes with those kids who are inwardly rebellious, and this is true of your bios as well as your foster kids, you don't really know what's going on. And that's the scary thing, with all the suicide rates going up and the drug abuse, eating disorders, all of those things. Sometimes it's really hard to identify those things when our kids are compliant. We view compliance as doing okay, and that's not always the case. So we need to be sure that we are praying that God is leading our heart and leading us to the problems that our children have, so that we can help them and support them, and lead them down a path and set an example that is good for them, for their present, and especially for their future. So I hope that this was helpful. I'm not sure if I have anything else to add on this. If I do, I'll post another video. I applaud anybody who's considering being a foster parent of teens. It's particularly difficult, and you have, even if you get them at 13, and you keep them until they're 18, you have a very short window of time to really impress upon them how much you love them and how much you want them to be a part of your family, and to help them grow from their trauma into their future. And it can be a challenging road with all of the obstacles that are out there in culture today, from the way that kids dress, from the music they listen to, from the violence, from social media, to the transgender issue, to all the abortion, sex before marriage, all the things. There's so many things that are attacking our children, mentally, emotionally, and just outwardly. And so prayerful, you just have to be prayerful. I don't know how people raise children without the Lord, because it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing when our kids start going out into the world, when they get their driver's license and they're going who knows where, and hopefully they're being truthful with you so that if something happens, you can, it's just a very, very scary thing in this day and age to be raising teenagers with all of the freedoms and they have, and all of the ability to be out there on social media in the world. So again, prayerful, be prayerful. So I am praying for you, all of you foster parents who are foster parents in general, but especially of teenagers, because it is so hard. But if you do that and you do it well, you are going to feel the reward of that, regardless of how things turn out with each individual child. My heart goes out to you. So have a great day and good luck on your foster parenting journey.